Today we're going to talk more about Mac tips. And primarily we're going to discuss the Finder app. All of these tips are going to be about the Finder app today. And the first slide here is the first thing we want to do in the Finder is set our default folder. In other words, when we open up Finder, we want it to open up in a certain location. And this is how we set that default location. We have the steps here. The first thing we have to do is be in the Finder app. And I've shown the icon here that you see in the dock. When you click on that to open Finder, and then once we've opened the Finder window, we want to click on the Finder in the menu bar, and that will give us a drop down. And this preferences here is where we're going to set our default folder for Finder. The shortcut for that, of course, is Command comma, would take us directly to preferences. And that's true of preferences in all the apps. When we click on preferences, we get this next window, which is called Finder Preferences. And there are 4 tabs along the top. The General tab, or the first tab on the left, is where we set the default folder. We can also set items to be visible on the screen, such as hard disks and external drives and CDs and connected servers. I tend to try to keep my desktop very clear, so I don't usually check these. Okay, let's demonstrate this. When I just click in the open desktop, which is part of Finder, you saw the menu change from preview to Finder. And if I click on Finder, I get this drop down here, and I click the preferences. That opens this Finder Preferences window. And I'm going to click the General tab. And down here, this section here is where we set the folder. Now it shows you some of the folders here you can set, but if this doesn't include where you want the Finder to open, you can click on Other, which will bring up another window, and we can choose where we want this to go. In this case today, I'm going to navigate down here and click on Today's Class folder. This is where I've placed my information preparing for this class. I'm going to choose that as my default folder. So now when I open a new Finder window, it opens in that folder because I've set that to be my default. Any questions on that?
Yes.
Now
Excuse me, Greg. If you're saving documents, now if you have it saved to the documents folder, that'll also be backed up in the cloud, won't it? If you have it set that way in preferences, right?
Right. If you have it set that way in preferences, when you say save, it's going to want to save by default into the iCloud. This default folder is not about saving, it's about opening a Finder window.
Oh, okay.
And we open a Finder window when we're looking for something.
Okay. Thank you.
And then a lot of times when you save something, it tries to show you a folder that you've recently saved to, thinking you may want to save there again. So when you save something, you want to really pay attention to the dialog boxes to make sure it's going where you want it to go.
Right.
And if it goes to the wrong place, we're going to cover a little later on how to find those things that end up being in the wrong place. Now, I do have a couple of links here. This link here will take us to the Apple support website, to the area talking about the organizing your files in Finder. And then Mac Most has, the most videos that Gary has produced have been about the Finder, because the Finder is really one of the more important things about a Mac. That sort of separates a Mac from an iPad, because this is how you navigate through all your documents. And in general, you probably would have more documents on your Mac than you would on an iPad, because you create more content on a Mac than you do an iPad. So there's over 220, I think he's up to 223 now, actually, videos about the Finder. Now the next slide here is going to how I show the status and path bars. Along the bottom here, well, to do that, you have to be in Finder, of course, and you select View from the menu bar across the top. And that gives you this drop down, and then you select Show Path Bar. And I wouldn't learn the shortcut for that. I don't turn these off and on. I always leave them on. I find them helpful, and they don't take up much room, and they're at the bottom. So show the path bar. When you do that, it ends up showing you this across your bottom of your Finder window. Then when you have to click back in again. As soon as you click on this, you drop out of this window. So to do the next step, you have to come right back into the view window again by clicking the view in the menu bar. Gives you that drop down again, and this time you click on show status bar. And that status bar is this here. It shows you how many items are in that file or the folder that you're looking at in Finder. It shows you how much more room you have available. So then once those two are on, I just leave them checked on. I'm going to demonstrate that now here. I'm going to minimize that here. So if we're in Finder, I'm going to just get that down a little smaller. Okay, we're in Finder and we go into View. This is show the path bar. Now when I click on that, it shows me this path. And you see how far down into all these different levels I'm at to get to this location. I'm going to click on View again and then show status bar. And that comes in at the bottom. So there's our path. So this location here is this one here. And that's that many levels deep into the folder structure of this computer. Now in this folder, I have 3 items. Those are the 3 items. And I have 290 gigabytes available on my hard drive. And this is just something that I like to have turned all the time so I can see where I'm at. Now I can quickly jump on here by clicking on this. That took me back up this way in the past. I could navigate my way back. And there's where I was before, navigating all the way down. Any questions on the status or path bar? And like I said, I just leave these turned on all the time. Now this next slide, I've dedicated more time to this next slide because it's probably the most important part about Finder. And we're talking about the sidebar. And this is the sidebar here. I know this is a very cluttered slide. It's got a lot of information going on here, but this sidebar here, part of Finder, has 4 sections to it. This section is called Favorites. This is called iCloud. This is Location, and this is Tag. Now tags, we're going to talk about that in a later slide. It gets its whole slide. Locations shows us all the different items on our network that our computer's talking to. And this is my computer that I'm on here today. And this is the the boot hard drive of that computer. And of course, here's my Time Machine backup. And iCloud is my iCloud drive. Of course, it has a lot of sub directories here, but the favorites, Apple starts you out with a group of favorites that it think you might be interested in, but this is the area that you want to control and you want to personalize and make this help you. Now, when we go into the Finder preferences again, and I'm going to show you the steps here. We have all these different switches, and this tab is all about this sidebar. And these switches turn these particular items on and off, so you see them. And I've got all these locations turned on there, but you probably don't have much going on your network. I mean, you could have multiple computers hooked in that you could be talking to. You could have special backup drives and so forth, but most people don't have a whole lot of activity going on in locations. And you can choose to turn some of these items off. But let's go back here through the steps to get us to this control of the Finder sidebar. Now in the Finder menu, of course, Finder has to be running. In the Finder menu, we click on Finder at the top, brings this drop down, and we select the preferences just like we did on the previous slide. And of course, there's a shortcut to do it. But in this case, instead of the general tab, we're talking about the sidebar tab. And again, this is the sidebar, the different sections. When you click on this and open this, you check and uncheck to make items show or not show in this area. And I'm gonna demonstrate that part right now. Now here again in Finder, now if I go here and if I say hide sidebar, this bar, and I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can hide it. But just to demonstrate what it is, I'll bring it back, and that's an item. That's this on the left side. Now I want to go into the area in the preferences where I control what's going on here. Okay, let's say, for instance, I'm going to uncheck all of these things here in the locations. I usually use some of them checked. Now, when I uncheck all of them here, that section actually went away. We don't see it anymore. I have favorites, I have iCloud, and I have tags. But locations went away. But if I check one item back, that does bring me locations. Now, any of these items here, if you hover over the title of this section, you can click this little drop down and shrink or collapse that section, make it smaller. Okay, if this gets too crowded. But I usually leave these turned on, and even tags. Okay, now we're gonna go back in here, back into preferences again, and deselect some of these items here. I can undo, when I do AirDrop, it went away, and I can bring it back in. Recents, I can get rid of any of these things or add all of these things. And of course, you might ask, why don't I have pictures, music, and movies checked on here? Because certainly I have pictures and music and movies on my machine, and I might want to look at it. Well, I tend to keep these unchecked because the best way to look at this stuff is through the apps. You have this Photos app to look at your pictures and your movies, and also have the music app. I have a little window sticking over my dock. I couldn't see there, the music. So I can access all my music through this app. So I really don't want to access these individual files through Finder. So I leave that part unchecked. Okay, let's go back here to the slide. And the next part of this slide here shows about how to drag in. We saw how to turn these items on and off in the sidebar, but we can also add other files that don't exist in this list to the sidebar. And the reason why you might want to do that, you may be working on a project, or maybe you're working on a vacation, you're working on something that you're going to be in and out of that folder often, and maybe it's your income tax, whatever it is, you want to drag that folder into the favorites bar and position it where it's handy to you, so it's readily available while you're working on that subject. And then when you get finished with that subject, you don't want to throw it away, but you don't really want it in your favorites bar. It's fine to be there and find it when it's necessary. For instance, classes that I did in 2014, I don't really want to throw that work away, but I also don't need to get into that every day. But in this case, 2021 classes, I may want to add that to my favorites. And here's the steps to do that. You select a folder that you want to be in your favorites, and you actually drag that folder into this list. For instance, here's what happens if I drag that one, and it starts appearing down here. Then once it's in this list, you can adjust it. You can move it up and down by clicking on it and dragging it up and down and putting it in the location that you desire. Then after it's in there, you can actually do a right click on that and remove it or drag it back up. Now let's try to demonstrate that here. Okay, we've navigated down here, and the example slide shows the 2021 classes. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to see how I just drag and see where it wants to go. Anywhere. And once I do that, I can move it around. Okay. Now that that's in there, a quick click right there brings me into this folder. I can drag this one in there too. And when I'm done working on that, then I can drag, see when the X appears, if I let go, it goes out of the folder, but it's still on my machine. I have just moved it out of my favorites section. Any questions on this? Okay, going to our next slide. This is Finder view options. And in the Finder, there are multiple ways that you can view something. And my favorite, of course, is columns, but we also have icons, and we have lists, and we have a gallery. And the way you set that is in the Finder app, you click on the View tab in the menu bar, which brings you this drop down. And in this area, you select one of these views. Now, there's other ways to do that. And you can also show view options. And if you click down here, you bring up this window here where you can set some specific things to happen about that folder. So every time you open it, it's grouped a certain way and sorted a certain way, has the text size that you want, and you can choose to show the previews or not. In other words, if this is a folder that you open up very often, you may want to set some of these specific things about that folder so it looks the same way to you every time you open it up. Let's try to demonstrate that. Right now, this folder is opened up in the icon view. And I can change it to list. When I do that, those same items, I didn't change what's in the folder. but I changed how that appeared to us. In this case, it's a list. Each of those icons turned into a line item. And then there's certain information about this particular file or folder. In this case, these are files. And we can sort by these things. Right now, this column here has been sorted alphabetically from in an ascending way. If I click on that arrow, it changes the sort in the opposite direction. It changes that sort. Or I can, maybe the date is more important to me. So I click in this column, and now this column is sorted by date. Or I could sort by size or by kind. I could move these columns around. Okay, if that column's more important to me, I can move it here. I can also click in this area here and add some additional things. Like maybe I want to see the date last open. So I added another column. Now it added down here at the end, but if that's my most important one, I may want to move it over here. Or sort in the other direction. Now I also can change the views from the toolbar, from the Finder toolbar, because I have an icon up here that shows the 4 different views. So I can change it to columns. Here again, I have those same items here, but they're shown in column view. Now, none of these are folders, so there's no additional columns within these, because these are all folders. Or I could just switch to this kind of view here. Now, the last thing I want to show is about the view options. And I'm going to have to click a folder, not just a file for that. Now, these are all the things that I can change, and this fold is always going to want to open up in column view and browsing column view and group by, and I can group by group by application. By changing that group by application, you notice I had three files over here, but now they're sorted, they're subdivided by application. This file was created by Keynote, so it's located under Keynote. These two are PDF files, so the application for PDFs is Preview, so that's why they're grouped in that name. But if I regroup them by date added, now the topic or the subcategory headings are to do with dates, not applications. And this one was changed today here, created today. And these are older. And I can change the text size here, where that made all the text bigger. I'll go back. So it's the trade-offs with the text size, of course, the bigger you make it, the easier it is to read, and then also the fewer things that can show in that same given area. Now I can turn the icons off. Now these files here all had an icon before. Now they don't. I choose to show the icons. then when I select these, then this, because this is checked, it shows the preview. So you can check or uncheck that. Some people like to show the preview, some people don't. The preview is pretty powerful. Without opening this file, of course it's open back here, but I can see through the pages here without opening it. Then you can also mark it up. So they've made some changes in the past couple of revisions of software to make this preview a little more powerful. Here again, I have a link to the Apple support, and then this is also MacMost videos on this subject. Any questions? Okay, now I'm going to talk about the Finder Go menu. We saw in the sidebar, you can navigate pretty quickly, but there's also another drop down in Finder that allows you to jump to some specific folders quickly. And in the Finder app, we'll go over here across the menu bar across the top and click on Go, which gives us this drop down. And all of these drop down areas here do have a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut. So if these are areas that you like to go to often, it might be worth learning those particular shortcuts. I don't usually use this very often. I did want to demonstrate it. And this category down here is the recents folder. And this, of course, changes with time. So you can drop this down and select any one of these and go to that folder, or go through the recents if you would. Okay, now right now I'm in this folder here. If I want to go back to documents, for instance, that jumped immediately here and put us in the documents folder. Of course, we can change the views in there, and we can regroup things. Now the library, I have the library is probably doesn't show on yours. I think you have to hold the option down. I have reset my computer so I see the library. Normally, a library is probably some area that you really don't want to get into unless you know what you're specifically looking for, because you can end up, if you change something in the library, you can end up changing how your computer operates. So they kind of protect you and not make you do something extra to see that. Okay, next slide. Tags. Now, this is the section in this. Yes.
I don't understand the need for the Go column.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed one of the words. You don't understand what?
The need for the Go column.
The names?
The need. Why you need it?
Oh, why it's needed. It's just a way some people use to navigate, to be able to go quickly. And by using the key, actually, I think the benefit is the keyboard shortcuts. A lot of touch typers do not like to grab the mouse or put the hands on the trackpad. They like to keep their fingers on the keyboard for navigation. And it's a quick way for them to jump from one location to another with the keyboard. I tend to keep my hand on the trackpad more than I do the keyboard. So this isn't very useful to me either. But it's something that's been around a long time, and maybe when it was first introduced, the sidebar wasn't as good as it is now. but I prefer to use the sidebar to navigate through my Finder. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, now the other section, or the bottom section of the sidebar, was tags. And this tags are another way to help you organize your files and folders in the Mac filing system. And you might think of this as you have a drawer full of folders and they're put in there sorted by date, for instance. And you can put a little colored sticker on those and leave them sorted by date, and then pull things out by the sticker. And so it's sort of a way to have them indexed multiple ways in your computer. So you can group things together one way, for instance, dates, and then another way with these tags. And I have, for instance, I have something called Mac class here. And even though these classes, I store them by years, if I want to look at all particulars, and at one time I was using this to attach this to all the class slides. So I could look at all the slides I produced, regardless of what date it was, without having to drill down through the different folders. Just bring up the classes, the slides all together by clicking on the tag. This column here is what you use to whether you want them to show or not show in the Finder. And then you can create additional tags. You can rename tags. And of course you can and pick the different colors. I try to demonstrate that in this tag section. I'm going to see if I can, I'm not even sure that I have anything. Yeah, I don't have anything created, but I can show you some currents. And these are some of my currents, even though, for instance, I keep track of a lot of my electronic bills that I get, and I keep those all sorted by year. But in this case, I can grab all the ones from 2021 and all these different categories, and medical and so forth, and resources. And I can get to them quickly, even though they're actually physically stored in different folders according to date. I can bring them in this case, by subject.
Greg, could I ask,
Yes.
you've given the green current tag to every one of these things as you've worked on them?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay.
And
at some point, if they get old, then at some point you go back and take the green tag off.
Correct. For instance, I might go in here to this, go look at today's class, and I can give this a green tag, okay? I can add that. It doesn't have it now. I'm going to add it. So then when I go down here to current, it shows up here.
There it is. Okay.
Okay, it wasn't there before. But now if I go into that and I say, okay, I don't want that anymore, I can right click that and uncheck that. See how that changed to remove current?
Right.
Okay,
thanks.
Okay. Now, I don't know whether any of you use these tags or not, but if you don't, it's something you might want to think about to supplement your finding of certain things quickly. Okay, let's go back to the slides. Okay, now smart folders. And a smart folder is not really a folder. It's a search. And I know we've talked about this before, but there are smart searches that you can use not only in Finder, but within Mail, you can do this. And you can also create smart folders in Photos. It's the same idea, just where the information is stored and at where you set it up is different on the other applications. But in this case, we're talking about creating a smart folder in Finder. So in the Finder menu bar, in the Finder, you want to go into the search area in the Finder and up in the toolbar portion. And if your window's shrunk down, you may have to expand it to get to it. But you type a term in there that you want to search for. And then when you type that term in, Finder's going to search your, in this case, search this Mac for files or folders or information that contains this word. And you can further refine the search by hitting the plus button here below the search and add additional search criteria to this search. And once you have nailed it down and say, yes, this is what I want to always search for, you can hit the save. Then brings up this dialog box here where you give this a search a name. And of course, it's going to want to save it and save searches, but you can choose another location. You can also choose when you're creating this or saving this for the first time, whether that's added to the sidebar in Finder or not by checking or unchecking this box. Now, once you create this search, if you create a new document that contains the items that you're searching for, that document then automatically will be found the next time you institute this search. Okay, the steps here again, we're going to, well, in this case, we go in here and I left out this step here, file and new smart folder, which brings you to this dialog where you put in the search terms. And then you can add additional terms or eventually you save it and fill out this criteria here as we discussed. So in Finder, a new smart folder. When I click this, it's going to open up another Finder window or Finder search. And here's where I want to type the criteria in, STUG. And right now it's looking at all this entire Mac, or I could choose this. This is the last folder that I was in. I can restrict my search to just this folder or the whole Mac. So if you are wanting to do this search in a specific folder, you should probably navigate to that folder first before you institute the search. But then these are the different items that this Mac has found on itself. And they're sorted by folders and documents and presentations and spreadsheets and PDFs and images and Safari bookmarks and so forth. And there's other things. Now, if I wanted to, I've got a lot of different categories, a lot of different stuff showing here, but maybe I want to restrict this search to I just want this to be a PDF. So when I choose that, all those other categories went away and I only have the PDF category left. maybe I'm interested in a certain time frame. Let's say create a date within the last 5 days, for instance. Well, I haven't been creating much lately. Or I could change that to weeks or months. Here again, see my green dots appear, the current.
I like seeing how you searched within with the plus. That's helpful.
Yes. And if these criteria aren't enough for you, you actually can hit the other button. And you see the little check marks in this column? These are the ones that are showing in that search. These are all the other things you can search by.
Wow.
There's some, if you're into photos, there's really some powerful things that you can search for here. So you customize this list according to what you might be looking for.
Right.
So this is very, very powerful. Okay, then if you get into this and you say, oh, well, I don't want that anymore, you can subtract these things out one at a time and change your search. And then finally, we can save that, and you choose a new title, and then you choose, and you probably want to add that search into the sidebar if it's that important to you. Some people would use this for maybe recent documents. Maybe I want to find all the pages documents that I created, within the last year or so forth, and keep that as a category, because if you're working on a certain app, you want to look at the files that you created, but keep in mind those files are also located down here. Your last 20 pages, in this case, can be gotten to in the doc quickly here. But this search is very powerful. Okay, that brings us to our last slide today, and or our last slide on a topic today. And this is how you share iCloud folders. And you might already be doing that with photos, because you can easily create a shared section in your Photos app. But this is a way that you can share folders or files from your iCloud account to other people. And you do this, of course, through Finder, because Finder is the star of the show today. So you navigate yourself in Finder, you navigate yourself into the iCloud, and you go to a folder or file that you're wanting to share. And then when you get yourself in that location, you hit the share button, and it brings up some more dialog boxes. And now what you can do is you can choose some criteria about the sharing. People you want to share this with everybody or only people you invite. You can send people links and so forth. And you invite them, and they have to accept for this to happen. You can invite them through any of these apps right here, the mail or message or AirDrop or notes. You can invite them to share that folder. And of course, like I say, they have to accept it. And if you send them an email, for instance, then it brings up this character here, or this email message here, where you type in their information, and then it sends them the link or the file to share. And then here again, we've got a video on this and some more information here from Apple support. Okay, so if we go into iCloud and I go into, and for instance, I'm going to do the monitor here. And if I hit the share button on that monitor, I can choose this here to share the file, and I can see who's going to access, only people I invite or anyone with a link. And I'm going to make them not only have the link, but they're going to have to also be invited by me. And then you can change the permissions here. And if you want them to view only, and that's normally what you do unless you're trying to collaborate on a certain document. You don't usually collaborate on a PDF because you can't normally edit a PDF. So then you click share, and in this case, you click how you want to share. You could just copy the link and get them the link by a different method, or you could airdrop it or message it. But if you mail it, it brings up the mailing situation here where you type in their address and so forth, and you can change the subject if you'd like to, but it's automatically written in from what you've chosen, from the file you've chosen. Any questions on this slide? Okay, that's the end of the slide presentation today. Are there any questions on anything we've done today or any other subject?